Hi everyone, good morning or good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are and when you're watching this. So, welcome to my channel. I am Tracy from Tracy Ellen Art, and this week we are back to the Dutch collection. We'll be doing a 16 by 20 deep edge Dutch pour. I'm still debating whether it will be a light pale blue base or a kind of creamy buff white base. So we'll see when I get down there and start mixing the paints. But yeah, feel free to subscribe to my channel and like the video if you enjoy watching. Thank you. Let's get started. So here we are. I have my blue base and we're just spreading it across the canvas using a hair dryer, making sure that we get all of the corners and the sides. You can probably see this is my second attempt. I tried something and had to scrape my canvas because I was not super thrilled with it, but here we are. This is the second attempt, and let's see how this goes. So I'm basically spreading the paint across the canvas to get all the edges and sides, and then you'll notice I will even out the paint so that there's not too much paint left on the canvas. If you have too much paint on the canvas, it can cause a lot of different things. One is you might get cracking when it dries. It might take a long time to dry. You might not get the composition that you're trying to get because there's just too much paint to keep the composition in place, and so it'll move a lot more. So I'm just trying to even and level out the paint before I start layering my colors. I love this color blue, and I wish I could tell you all what color it is, but it was scrapings from the first base. So there was a little bit of buff in there, a little bit of blue, and a couple of other colors. So I apologize for not having that information for what exactly color it is. So now here I'm just touching up the sides where I may have had some bare spots or didn't make it all the way over to the corners. And here I'm just cleaning up the paint that looks like it's dripping off the edge of the table because I have my canvas way too close to the edge of the table here this time. And I'm just using my torch to pop any bubbles that there may be in my base layer before I start layering my colors. You'll see me use my torch quite frequently. I will either see bubbles or as I'm laying down paint, I want to make sure that I don't have a lot of air bubbles that will dry as just little kind of like pinholes in the painting. So first color I'm laying down is one of my favorite colors. It's Amsterdam Prussian blue, and I love this color. I use it quite frequently in almost all of my color combinations, and it makes me happy. And so for some reason I forgot to get one of my other paints that I wanted, so there's a little bit of time lapse here between this first color and the next colors. So I think I'm all set here, and I'm going to start laying down the folk art flash green, or green flash, sorry. Another one of my favorite colors. Actually, the three of my favorite colors are in this painting. So the Prussian blue, the green flash, and the Arteza pink pearl tulip, which you'll see shortly here. This is the Arteza Pearl Golden Hour and Creative Inspirations Yellow mixed together. I wanted that bright yellow to add some brightness to the painting, but I also wanted a little bit of pearlescence and shimmer. So this is Antique Gold by Sargent. I love this color gold. depending on what I'm using, right? It has a little bit of a green sheen to it. And so here I was trying to use springy, gardeny, flowery kinds of colors. So I liked it. I liked using that gold versus the regular gold. There's my Arteza Pearl Pink, which I am in love with. I really like this color. And then lastly, I'm putting down some Amsterdam Titanium White. A lot of times I'll put white just to add some contrast so the colors don't kind of blend all together. When they dry darker. So I like to have that white in there to create that contrast between the different colors. So when it mixes with the other colors, it really keeps them nice and separated and bright and identifiable. So we are popping our air bubbles again, getting rid of all that air, and we're going to start drying. So this is another one where I wanted to do a continuous blow all the way through the colors. I didn't want to do individual petals. I wanted one continuous feathery kind of flow, and I absolutely love how this painting came out. I love the colors. I love the composition. I'll tweak it here again in a minute. You'll see. I'll start tweaking it to spread it out a little bit more. But these really soft, calming, soothing colors is kind of how I think of them. They're very, very pretty and delicate and just enough pizzazz, I think, to have a little bit of brightness, but still have that calming, balancing effect for me anyways. So very happy with how this painting turned out. Definitely will be showing you both the close-up of the wet version as soon as I'm done blow drying, and then again the dry version of this painting once it's dry. Now that we're getting into some warmer, a little bit more humid weather up here in New England, it's taking a little bit more time for my paintings to dry, so you might notice sometimes I'm posting my videos a little bit later in the week than I initially was. That's just because when I paint on the weekends, it takes several days for the paintings to dry, and I need to wait so that I can show you that dry result. That because sometimes it does look different between the wet and the dry results. The paint can move. The drying effect causes, cells to either pop or spread or stretch or disappear sometimes. So it does look different when it's wet and dry. So I do like to give you both views of after it's done. Here again, I am scraping the bottom. Always, always, always scrape your bottom. What I typically do is scrape my bottom immediately, and then I might futz around with the painting, or I might clean up or whatever. And I will probably scrape 4 or 5 times within the first half hour, I would say. And that's usually pretty good. After the first half hour, it starts to set and stops dripping. Here I'm fixing something. I think I didn't like having that little bit of a hook kind of low look part of that piece. So I was just kind of smoothing it out. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, scraping the bottoms. It just makes it so much nicer when you don't have all those drips pulling the paint off. What you'll see sometimes if you don't scrape your drippings off the bottoms, it'll continue to pull paint down the sides, and then your sides will be a little more stretchy, translucent, thin coverage, and you want it to you want that composition. So if you look at those two corners where all the colors are, you want that to wrap around the sides, but not necessarily stretch off the sides. So do try to scrape as much as you can until you don't see drips forming anymore underneath your canvas. I do always tape the back of my canvas. You may have seen some quick videos on YouTube or on Instagram, or even one of my YouTube channels. I think I had shown the taping process. It just keeps the backs nice and clean. It makes it much easier to get rid of any drippings that do form, especially if you're going to resin. Those drippings can be quite large, and I do not enjoy sanding at all. If you don't have tape on it or an easier way to get those drippings off, especially when you're using resin, you will likely need to sand, either using sandpaper or a hand sander. And no, that's not really my favorite thing to do. So I try to avoid sanding as much as possible. Sometimes I may just kind of have an idea and throw a canvas on, and then I don't take the time to tape it and pay the price and go out in the garage and start sanding. It's not the most awful thing in the world. It's just not my favorite. So I try to avoid it. So this is the finished work. When you see the close-up, you'll see just kind of all of the shimmer. I'm really happy that I added that Creative Inspiration yellow. I think it adds just a pop of brightness and light to the painting, along with some of those more deeper colors. So this is exactly what I was trying to get out of this, just kind of a flowy, feathery, no really definitive sharp petals or separate petals, just kind of one long flow of color. Okay, so here is the wet result. This is immediately after I did my last torching, and you can see there's some very, very pretty cells and lacing here. You can see where the white kind of separates and integrates the colors at the same time. You can see some of that shimmer. That pink is a pearl. Actually, all the colors had a pearlescent to them except for the Prussian blue and the white. So there's a lot of shimmer mixed into this composition, and you'll see when it's dry that it is still pretty shimmery. And here's the dry result. So pretty, so prominent, so I feel like it's calm, but also at the same time every color stands out on its own. So you get kind of the wow factor from the shimmer, and also the lots of different colors, as well as the calming effect of the pale blue. And here's the finish. Thank you for visiting my channel, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.